At 3:11 a.m., the house remembered what my family forgot. Floorboards ticked like a metronome, the old pendulum clock cleared its throat, and my hearing aids hummed with the thin insult of yesterday's dinner. Senile. They didn't say it to my face. Grandchildren are brave only in other rooms. I set the kettle, counted the clicks to boiling, and opened the ledger no one knows I keep. The figures breathed where they shouldn't. A half-gone savings bond I never touched. 2 keys reprogrammed on my front door while I napped. 1 photo frame moved a centimeter, revealing dust untouched since my wife died. I am an old man, yes, but I'm not foggy. I pressed my palm to the wallpaper and felt the stud where I hid the cable to the camera. It began with a missing rook from the chessboard I carved in winter. The rook guards the corner, if you know the game. It had been swapped with a near twin, lighter, with a hairline seam. My grandson thinks I don't know resin from walnut. He also thinks he's the only one who knows how to print secrets into small hollows. I brewed the strong coffee my doctor forbids and watched the timestamp crawl across last night's footage. A whisper of sneakers, a hand with my blood in its veins, shaking. A shadow in my study, braver than it felt. They called me senile and then tried to steal what I remember best. My patterns, my routine is a net. They tangled themselves without seeing the knots. Dawn arrived wearing my late wife's colors. I turned off the chime on the safe, reset the clock to tick wrong, and slid a red envelope beneath the chessboard. When a person insists you are losing your mind, sometimes you should lend them a map. Let them walk where you want them to go. The price of underestimating me would be paid in full. The story you're about to hear is not about age. It's about memory, and how memory becomes a weapon when underestimated. They called me senile, a man fading like wallpaper. Yet, within the quiet routines of my home, I stored not weakness but patterns, calculations and traps waiting to be tested. My grandchildren thought I was slipping. Instead, I was listening. The house itself became my accomplice. The ticking clock was my metronome, the creak of the floorboards a code, and the chessboard, always the chessboard, the battlefield no one else understood. When they moved pieces in secret, I moved time itself, shifting locks, resetting traps, and burying evidence beneath layers of silence. What they forgot is that silence is louder than words, and the quiet reveals everything. Before we descend into the labyrinth of betrayal, theft, and revelation, I ask you to stand witness. My life is a ledger of broken trust, but also of meticulous justice. If you follow this tale, know it is not entertainment alone. It is testimony. A testimony of what happens when family mistakes wisdom for weakness. Subscribe now, leave a like, comment your city and country. My grandson entered the study at night. He thought silence meant true stealth. He leaned heavy, floorboards trembled. I knew he sought the rook. That rook was not carved for beauty. It was proof against grief. The resin imitation betrayed his theft. He underestimated grief, sharpened like knives. I did not confront him immediately. Instead, I watched the cameras closely. He studied the walnut rook intently. He thought it contained hidden treasure, but it held only handwriting inside. His hands trembled with clear fear. Fear means consequences, not just greed. Who frightened him more, me or another? At breakfast, I tested his courage. He refused to play the game. Afraid men cannot move pawns. I overheard whispers about delivery and proof. He believed my study hid treasure. I traced his call through patterns. Ghost numbers rang past midnight. That is the hour of debts. I left a drawer unlocked intentionally. Inside waited a red-sealed letter. That night I feigned deep sleep. He pocketed the letter without opening. The chessboard camera caught his fear. He feared failing someone else entirely. He carried bait, not treasure. The real game had just begun. The red envelope was not treasure. It was bait sealed with wax. He walked proud, carrying false victory. The message was invitation to shadows. He looked back at my study. Walls seemed to watch his theft. Guilt tightened rope around his neck. I stared at the missing rook. My wife believed in their pride. Now one was courier of shadows. I followed him with patient steps. He left bus 2 districts away. He entered a dim, smoky cafe. Through glass, I saw the exchange. Man in coat pocketed sealed letter. My grandson's face showed pale relief. The man whispered into his ear. His body stiffened, eyes widened. He was not in control anymore. I reviewed footage asking why. Who trusted a boy with danger? What prize awaited in my house? He returned home, shoulders hunched. Locked in his room, he cried. He was pawn, not true thief. Pawns can be sacrificed or changed. I placed rook back on square. This time pieces were flesh and fear. The next move belonged to me. The black box blinked on my desk. Old men keep secrets in silence. I opened it with patient caution. Inside, wires coiled around blinking chip. Numbers spilled across my old reader. They whispered of hidden evidence. My grandson knocked, pale and trembling. I lied, saying shadows never moved. Relief in his eyes betrayed fear. Fear poisoned him, but fear cures. At dawn, I carved hollow coin. I hid chip where rook once stood. That night, cameras revealed their return. The coatman reached for coin. Chessboard mechanism snapped drawer open. Inside lay note in wife's hand. It read, "Not everything belongs to you." The first time his head bent. He pocketed coin, urgency sharp. Cameras captured his face in light. Shadows cannot hide from forced sunrise. The board remained incomplete, war unfinished. Now I had his patterns, his face. Time is the weapon I command. The coatman's face was captured. Danger wears form when named. My grandson trembled with silent fear. Chains rust, fear weakens in light. I wrote him a hidden letter. I told him he was hot. I would never leave him alone. He whispered about ledger of ruin. But the ledger burned long ago. Ashes were past, not living proof. I told him to bring the man. Midnight came, boots drummed the floor. I pointed him toward the chessboard. If he wanted truth, he must play. We played, silence echoing each move. He attacked fast. I waited patiently. Memory carved my strategy into trap. Checkmate whispered across the board. His defeat was caught on camera. My grandson exhaled as chains fell. There was no ledger, only ashes. He had underestimated blood and memory. He left, empty, beaten, and furious. My grandson collapsed into my arms. He was never my enemy, only lost. Together we had faced the storm. Together we had survived in silence. The chessboard glowed with quiet victory. The house is quiet again, but silence no longer feels like loneliness. It feels like victory. My grandchildren once called me senile, believing memory fades into dust. Yet memory was the blade I carried, sharper than their suspicion, stronger than their doubt. I proved that age is not weakness. It is the slow gathering of storms, and storms strike hardest when underestimated. My grandson sits across from me now, his eyes no longer shadowed by fear, but lit by understanding. He has seen what it means to stand against darkness, and he knows that the blood in his veins comes from more than inheritance. It comes from resilience, from the will to survive, from the stubbornness of a man who refused to bow, even to time. The man in the coat is gone, but his echo remains, like a warning carved into the wood of the chessboard. Perhaps one day another shadow will come. If so, I will be waiting. Because in this game of silence and memory, I have already learned the final truth. Checkmate belongs not to the clever, but to the steadfast, and I am still here.